There is another thing. So basically, whenever we see now there is an energy crisis, then there are some kind of a deficit in terms of the natural resources, the electricity problem, the coal problem, and all this thing. So ये भारत की खोज में सर भारत का धन जो भारत के पास है, and then whatever the alternate energies and solar energies and other things which is happening. So of course, I think there was certain kind of energy program got stuck in between, and again, government is trying to do better on that kind of a thing. So what is your view on a Bharat Ka Dhan? And then because this is one of the most important factors for any economy to grow, and how we are going to be a self-sufficient in terms of our Bharat Ka Dhan when it comes to the natural resources and the energy.
So this is a very, very tricky question. Clearly, we have not been able to exploit our natural resources to the extent needed. For example, we have large coal reserves, but yet we have to import coal. We don't have coking coal, so import of coking coal is understandable. But even non-coking coal, we have to import because we haven't exploited our natural resources. We were exporter of iron ore for a long period of time. Ideally, we should have exported value-added engineering items rather than iron ore, because when you convert iron ore to steel, you get one money. When you convert steel into engineering products, you get another set of money. We are the largest growers of cotton in the world. We are one of the largest exporter of yarn in the world, but we are not necessarily the largest exporter of garment in the world. When you sell cotton, you get one money. When you sell yarn, you get another money. But when you sell fabric, you get third money. But when you convert that fabric into garment and sell with a brand on it, you make maximum money. So clearly, India has to focus on value addition. There's no point in selling cotton, yarn, fabric, but we have to go and sell garments. There's no point in selling iron ore, but we have to go and sell value-added engineering products. There's no point in importing coal when we have coal reserves in our country. Now, how do we bring together development with the interest of the, let's say, residents and pollution? We have seen in southern India at Tuticorin, Sterlite copper smelter is shut. Now, there are local grievances which needs to be addressed, but at the same time, there's national imperative where we need this kind of development to continue. So how do we bring together the latest pollution control technology? How do we involve local people to come together? I think the best example of this is Sanand versus Singur. If you remember, Tata Motors had gone to Singur to set up their automobile factory. They faced a lot of resistance from locals, and finally they had to move out. They came to Sanand in Gujarat. They set up their automobile factory. And on back of Tata Motors investments, many other companies came over there. Today, when you go to Sanand, it's a thriving economy hub. There are developments visible. Per capita income has gone up. Bank fixed deposits have gone up. Residents are generally more happy as they have more opportunities. If you go to Singur, the farmers are now praying if Tatas will come back. Well, when they came back, you rejected them. Now you have to pay the price. If entire India can move towards Sanand model, where development coexists with local needs, local requirements, I think Indian growth is guaranteed. If entire India moves towards Singur way, where industries will not be allowed to set up because of the local resistance, then there's no opportunity for growth.
Yeah. So basically, I think whatever the as resources when it came from the come on the resources and all these things, आपने infrastructure की भी बात की. So and as far as the infrastructure is concerned, we are talking about the road. That okay, आपको आज भी डर लगता है गाड़ी में बैठने का, but for better reason. So I think
yes, now the roads have become so good that my wife
so
believes
good.
she can drive
Yes.
the car and fly.
या सो ये भारत का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर जो है, सो भारत का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर भी एक भारत की खोज में एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है फॉर इंडियन इकोनॉमी. दिस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इज रियली रियली वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. So जो हुआ है तो वो तो हुआ ही है. And then probably we have seen the way it is happening in India as far as the roads are concerned, as far as the power plants, because when it comes on the natural resources and then exploitation of those kind of things, then how do you see that going forward our infrastructure will grow, and then how this infrastructure will help our economy in terms of some kind of numbers if you can just throw, or in terms of some kind of a guidance, because ये तो सबसे बड़ा important चीज है. हम लोग इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के बारे में सालों से बात करते आ रहे हैं, बट जो लेवल का सेटिस्फेक्शन आना चाहिए, तो वो लेवल का सेटिस्फेक्शन अभी तक आया हुआ नहीं. बट रिसेंटली वी आर सीइंग द फास्ट मूवमेंट ऑन दैट. So could you please guide us on the as the infrastructure sector when it comes on the Indian economy and the markets?
So infrastructure shortages were there right from our independence till today. It's just that in recent times, we have started increasing the pace of building infrastructure. And that's how we have become infrastructure available in few of the sectors. For example, roads, highways with golden quadrilateral, massive construction started. It continued building momentum. And today you are looking in most parts of India, highways which are comparable with the best in the world. On port, we allowed public-private partnership that made investments possible, increased efficiency. And today we are seeing substantial improvement in port capabilities. On the railway side, our goods train used to run at 25 kilometers an hour because there was precedence given to passenger trains, and we really didn't have enough railway network. Now railway network is being expanded. We are converting diesel trains into electric trains. Bullet train is getting constructed. Dedicated railway freight corridor has come. Now all these things put together is creating infrastructure availability. But please remember, we still have a long way to go in increasing the speed of building infrastructure. For example, in Mumbai, when metro was being constructed, the work was going on day as well as in the night. Some residents whose sleep got disturbed went to the court, got a stay order. Now, straightway, if you can't work during night time, the time taken to complete metro expands almost double. Now, as a poor nation, can we afford that? The interest during constructions will make those products unviable. When the metro was being constructed, it was going underneath one religious structure. Again, people went to court. Again, the whole thing got delayed. Clearly, the pace of building infrastructure in India is substantially poorer and lower compared to rest of the world. How do we ensure that we can build infrastructure within the budget at the cheapest cost, at the fastest speed, will determine whether our infrastructure investment will actually yield better results or not.
Okay, because I think in China also, I think whatever the growth has happened is only because of the infrastructure. So that's why precisely I think whatever the kind of mindset of people, mindset of government is the most important thing while looking at the infrastructure. So another thing I think when we were talking initially, and then probably you were mentioning about youth of this country or a population of the country is precisely dependent on the agricultural or rather in a rural economy. I think there we are trying to create a lot of jobs. So we always think about mere desh ki dharti Sona Ugle. So when it comes on the agriculture, and in your couple of interactions also I have seen earlier, you are talking about the pulses, you're talking about the independence in terms of the food grains. So and that's why I think that independence will help us to control the inflation. So what is your thought process as far as agriculture is concerned? How हमारे देश की धरती अभी सोना कैसे उगल रही है in recent past, and how government has helped the farmers to achieve those things?
So we have been blessed in terms of fertile land. We have one of the largest arable land in the world. China is much bigger than us, but their arable land is less than us. Our farmers are hardworking. They work through, extremely tough weather to grow food grains. And today, from being net importer of food grains at the time of independence to we have become one of the largest producer of food grains, and we are actually exporter. Our agriculture exports crossed $50 billion last year, and this year it will be much higher. Now, agriculture is a very, very emotional subject. For farmers, land is like their mother. Uh, they are emotionally attached to this, and they are the largest voting group in the country. Now, for a variety of reasons, vested interests have ensured that farmers are not brought together and they are not able to participate in the modern economy for a variety of reasons. For example, the most successful model of farmer community getting benefited is Amul. There was a time when farmers or milk producers were vulnerable to large milk companies, and which is where Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel encouraged creation of Amul. It was the vision of Tribhuvanbhai Patel and hard work and execution of Dr. Verghese Kurian, which created Amul. It eventually made India world's largest milk producer. It eventually brought happiness to millions of farmers. If you watch Syam Benegal's movie called Manthan, you realize how much pain and effort had gone towards creation of Amul. Unfortunately, Amul's successful model has not been replicated in many other sectors. Even today, intermediaries take away maximum margin between farmers and the consumers. Today, also, it's very difficult to enforce uh, commercial contracts with the farmers. Uh, we really need to focus upon agro processing, value add in agriculture. This is the story I have heard. I don't know whether it's true or not, but I believe it is reasonably true. In Nagpur, we produce one of the best oranges. They are known for their quality all over the world. But we don't have a made in India Nagpur orange brand which can bring value to our orange farmers. This has not happened because one, it's not possible to enter into commercial contract with orange farmers and get desired quality and quantity of orange consistently. Second, we are not sure whether we will be able to transport pulp and juices from Nagpur to rest of the world through our highways and port system. Many decades ago, one company tried transporting pulp from Nagpur to Bombay, and they were miserable failure because one, the roads were non-existent. Second, there were octroi nakas in those days at every level, and it was difficult to move refrigerated container from Nagpur to Bombay. Now, unless until we can rectify all these issues, agro processing, value add in agriculture will not take off. Farmers will have to come together to replicate Amul model, and government will have to encourage agro processing industry so that value addition happens and farmers make more money.
Okay. So I think you rightly said, but then I think recently, probably I think as far as the transportation and all these things are concerned, so I think there were a lot of new trains and refrigerated trains and all these things which have started and which is really helping to the farmers. And now I think we have a kind of a motto of achieving the $5 trillion economy. So, what is your thought process? Hamara Bharat Atmanirbhar Bharat, and then what kind of things which are going towards that particular thing? What kind of actions being taken, and then how that Atmanirbhar Bharat is getting shaped? And of course, I think if it start getting shaped, then naturally we are on the line. And then as far as our investor direction is there, so that would be in a right direction to invest for a long term. So, could you please just help us to understand about something? Atmanirbhar Bharat and the kind of acts which are happening around that.
So I shared history of mobile handset manufacturing. That's
Right.
Atmanirbhar Bharat. Again, $5 trillion is a journey. It's not a destination. Whether we get $5 trillion ahead later doesn't matter. What what is most important is what kind of foundation we lay on which accelerated economic growth could come. There is a proverb in Hindi which says, "Garib ki joru, sabki bhabhi." There is a proverb in Gujarati which says, "Nana vagarno nathio ane nane natha lal." If you don't have money, people call you nathio nathio. But when you have money, people call you Seth Natha Lal. So India has to become rich in order to be respected by rest of the world. We can talk about all our history, culture, our yoga, Ayurveda, and so on and so forth. No one will give respect to us. But when we are rich, all these things will give respect to us. So for us, we need to ensure that we lay a foundation on which not only $5 trillion, but also 10 and $20 trillion economy can be achieved. Today, we are in 75th year of our independence. By the time we go to centenary, we should be such a large economy that everyone respects us. Uh, our Indians also gets lifted out of poverty line. We will have per capita GDP equivalent to many of our Asian peers. Now, all this thing is possible if we follow market principle, if we encourage entrepreneurship, if we have government as a regulator rather than as a player, if we create rule of law, if we encourage our entrepreneurship, if we support our entrepreneurs, if we follow economic policies which are more market driven than getting influenced by one vested interest group or another vested interest group. These things are commonsensical. Japan, China, Taiwan, Korea, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, all have walked on this path to become much bigger per capita economy than India. We just have to unleash the potentials of India. Today, if you go to US, the most successful immigrant community there is Indians. Their per capita GDP in US is substantially higher than what per capita GDP Indians have in India. How do we support Indians in India like Indians are supported in America? That will determine whether we achieve 5, 10, 15, 20 and beyond GDP or not.
Okay. So I think when it comes on the growth of GDP or when it comes on the expansion of the economy, the capital is the most important thing which we talk about. And you mentioned that okay, पहले मेरी बेटी को business करना होता, तो then naturally she has to be dependent on whatever the saving which we have done and then funded her business. But now I think in India, every day we see there is a new startup, and of course I think government is also supporting some kind of initiative. But the ample capital is available, and every month there is a new unicorn in India. What is your thought process on that? And of course, those kind of unicorns or those kind of new companies, new startups, new innovations is helping our population to get jobs and then creating more jobs within India. So, what is your thought process? So, I believe that is the source. So, Bharat Eak Soch बन के उभर के आ रहा है.
So
So, what
undoubtedly,
do you think about
availability
that?
of capital is allowing entrepreneurship to flourish. And as it happened with Indian cricket team when
Hello. Yeah.
uh, Pawan, I couldn't hear you because my internet connection was not stable.
Yeah. So basically, yeah. So whatever the kind of benefits which are happening, so how that capital flow in future also going to help us and then expand our economy. हम लोगों ने देखा कि recently Zomato listed हुआ और काफी सारी नई companies भी listed हो रही है. That there was a time where we didn't have those kind of things to invest in the stock market. So Any comment on the new startups and the innovations?
So clearly, availability of capital is flourishing entrepreneurship. And within entrepreneurship, there will be some successes, some failure. The failure should not deter us from experimentation. Like in Indian cricket team, when it moved from cities to semi-urban and rural areas, when it attracted talent from all strata of the society, we have moved to be a winning team. We are today far better in terms of winning than compared to the past. The same thing is happening in business. Earlier, our businesses were controlled by few families because they were having the capital. Today, availability of capital is unleashing entrepreneurship potential, and we will have many more Tatas and Birlas and Ambanis and Adanis over the years, over the decades, which will take India to a greater heights. And PVC, startups, fintechs, they are all playing a very, very important role in this.
सर ये सारी चीजें करते हुए इट्स वेरी इम्पोर्टेंट दैट ओके पॉलिटिकल व्यू और व्हाटएवर द काइंड ऑफ गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज आर वेरी वेरी इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग सो भारत की गद्दी और उसका कानून मींस आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसीज और मे बी व्हाटएवर द गवर्नमेंट इनिशिएटिव्स आर देयर और whatever the PLI schemes and all these things government has launched. So going forward, what do you think, or currently also, what do you think that there are a couple of policies the government has announced, and how it is going to help our economy, sir?
So clearly, a country can grow with the support of the government or despite the government. Obviously, in the first case, the growth will be much, much higher. Clearly, no country in the world has grown without the support of their government at a faster pace. Fortunately, now there is a consensus among all political parties that economic growth is needed. Most states are competing with each other to attract entrepreneurship and investments. And in some states, entrepreneurs are welcome more, some states less. But directionally, every state would like to have entrepreneurs who will grow businesses over there. We have today government which is facilitating growth, which is building infrastructure. As I mentioned, we still have some work to do on the rule of law and ease of doing business and investments on the ground. But it's a journey. We are better than where we were 10 years back. Hopefully, we will be better off 10 years down the line than where we are today. So overall, government is acting as a facilitator, and that's why Indian growth rate should be better in the days to come compared to the past.
So I think whatever said, so naturally, I think we have seen a recent crisis of COVID. We have seen earlier at any point of a time there may be some kind of a crisis coming forward because of Russia and Ukraine war, and I think we are sustaining in this kind of an environment, or we have some kind of a border issue as well. But still, India is taking its own stance and then trying to survive. So भारत का ऐसा क्या ब्रह्मास्त्र है सर कि जो COVID maybe I think we stood apart from the others and the kind of bleeding the other countries or even developed countries got in, but we didn't get into that particular trap and we have survived. आपने बोला कि यूएस वालों को तो मोबाइल पे नहीं मिलता है कुछ और हम लोगों को तो मोबाइल पे मिल जाता है. So basically, what is that brahmastra? On the basis of that, we are going to survive this kind of uncertainty in future, and then how our economy will grow, how our market will develop, and how we can have that kind of confidence to invest into Indian markets for a long term.
So COVID showed the worst and the best of India. There was a time when we had to announce lockdown as we were not sure how this virus will spread. That resulted into migratory problems. And we saw how people stepped up to support each other. My wife was a volunteer at one of the NGO, and she was working tirelessly to support migratory workers. It was not just private capital or private money, but also the public money. Uh, she was contacting municipal corporators and government officers. And contrary to popular belief, all of them were willing to help. Barely 10% of the phone calls which she would have made resulted into not the work not getting done. 90% of the time, those people, despite their busy schedule and hectic activities, were supportive. A lot of private people stepped up. I still remember a gentleman, a big builder of Mumbai. He traveled in his personal automobile to deliver food grains to you know, a family in Dharavi. Uh, I might not would have stepped out of my house in those days to deliver food, but here is one big builder of Mumbai traveling in his own personal automobile to deliver food grain to a family in Dharavi. So a lot of people stepped up to support this. Uh, the worst and the best of India also came during second wave in April, May 21. We saw unfortunate incidences of shortages of oxygen supply, shortages of medicine, shortages of hospital beds in few places. But we also saw how doctors stepped up, how quickly government arranged oxygen and medical supplies, how each one supported each other. Uh, I think if we plan well, the negatives will get minimized. And if we continue to do what we excel in terms of stepping up as a nation to tackle situation, to tackle problems, I think India's growth rate will be guaranteed for the future.
Thank you, sir. I think that was really nice of you, and I think you have very well summarized about the future prospects of Indian economy. I would just lastly ask you something ये तो सारी चीज हो गई है, but then it is more important to understand that what kind of a tone investors should follow for their long-term investment. As earlier I said, जो greed and fear drives our sentiments in a short term, but then when we really look for the long term, we need a kind of a clear direction in the mind of investor to invest, and that kind of a confidence which we need. So, what is your suggestion to our investor? What kind of how they should look for their investment? How do they do their investment? And how their mutual fund portfolio has to be there, and how Nivesh simplified they can do through their right portfolio and right selections.
So there's no shortcut to success. My recommendation will be don't bet against India. India will do well despite all the challenges. Try to be a long-term investor. If you want mango, you have to plant the tree and wait for 12 years. You don't get it early. Second, be a regular investor. Little drops of water make an ocean. Every month, what you can save will go a long way in creating your financial independence if invested properly. Third, maintain asset allocation. Don't be greedy. Don't be fearful. Markets will go up and down. The asset allocation will protect against the market volatility. As the saying goes, don't put all eggs in one basket. Same true holds for investment. So just this three simple principle of regular investment, long-term investment, and diversified investment will create financial freedom for you.
Thank you so much, sir, and thanks a lot to come to Fundvaliz Nivesh Simplified and give us a direction by doing a Bharat Eak Soch in a right way and touching upon the different parameters of the Indian economy, right from the infrastructure you talked about, technology and all these things, and then lastly you have given a right message to the investor. Don't be greedy, don't be fearful, be a long-term investor, be a systematic investor. Thank you so much. This was Mr. Nilesh Shah, Managing Director of Kotak Mutual Fund. We thank you to you for coming to our platform. So thank you very much.
Thank you.